It's an unlikely subject for a serious documentary, but check out Scandalous, a behind-the-scenes look at the National Enquirer and how it changed American journalism, from its days as a guts and gore crime rag to its focus on celebrity to its current status as a tool for President Trump.
The National Enquirer got its start as a local New York paper, but flourished and grew under the ownership of Generosa Pope, who moved its headquarters to Lantana, Florida.
It was a place that got your adrenaline going.
It was so crazy.
The documentary tells the story through voices of former editors and reporters, and it's peppered with commentary from current members of the media elite, like the New York Times' Maggie Haberman.
The Enquirer has gotten some stories really right.
They were right about Jesse Jackson, Michael Jackson, John Edwards, and, of course, Gary Hart. It was the Enquirer that found and printed the infamous picture of Hart with Donna Rice during a cruise on the monkey business.
And that just destroyed his political chances.
It was also the Enquirer that got the incriminating picture of O.J. Simpson wearing the shoes he said he never owned.
It was like finding the Holy Grail. It was so exciting.
They admit to paying their sources, stretching the truth, sensationalizing facts, and going to any length to get the story.
When Elvis died,
We dressed up somebody as a priest. Underneath his robe, he had a miniature camera.
We sold 6.9 million copies.
But something changed under the stewardship of David Pecker. Pecker was paying for stories he never printed, catch and kill, like stories about Donald Trump's affairs.
David Pecker brought a silent editor with him to the Enquirer, and it was Donald Trump.
It is the ultimate corruption.
Its weekly sales are down to about 150,000, but that, says one-time editor Steve Kaz, misses the point.
The National Enquirer, when you think about it, is the most perfectly placed piece of propaganda in America that is seen by 100 million people a week, probably more.
And read by more than anyone is willing to admit.
Of course, he's talking about the supermarket placement. I have to say, I was kind of, uncertain going into watching this thing. It is extremely well done, extremely well produced. They're the same people, Magnolia Productions, that did Mike Wallace Is Here, which is another film I absolutely loved. But I thought there was a real insight from the real people who worked there. I mean, they didn't hide what they did, and they admitted they did things that were more than borderline corrupt. And they weren't competing really with the mainstream media, but they loved it when they beat them, and they loved it when the mainstream media had to acknowledge that they got something, that started a whole thing. John Edwards' story was so unbelievable. No one touched that for months and months and months. They were right on it. So it's an interesting slice of Americana. I don't know how else to describe it for anybody who's interested.
Well, the National Enquirer certainly didn't invent the genre of tabloid sleaze. Back in the bad old days, newspaper reporters would rearrange crime scenes to promote a better photograph. The difference, and I think one of the key points the documentary makes, is this political weaponizing of the Enquirer. That's something, I don't want to say new, because it's not that. Sleazy tabloids never mixed it up in politics, and certainly they had impact with the Gary Hart story and Edwards and so forth. But that's a new wrinkle. I was struck by that circulation figure.
Oh, yeah.
That only 150,000. I mean, we get more than that for the 11 o'clock news.
I hope so.
Channel 4, yeah. And the notion that millions more read it in the checkout line, I'm not buying that. I think there's plenty of other distractions, and people are on their phones that I see waiting in long lines these days. I don't think they're reading the Enquirer.
Well, Steve Kaz was simply saying that people see the cover, and the
Yeah.
cover is just absolutely crucial. I love this. I love the photo editor. She's still excited after all these years about that Gary Hart photo.
I worked with that kooky Judith Regan at Fox, and I didn't know she worked at
Oh,
the
okay.
National Enquirer.
It's great. What is so striking about this is that the Enquirer was and is so sleazy that you wouldn't have thought that they had a soul to lose.
I know, exactly.
But they did lose their soul when they went all in with President Trump.
Right.
And it's just, I love it. Where are we going to be able to see this? Is it
It's
going
at
to be
Kendall.
on TV?
No, it's CNN. It's a CNN documentary.
I thought it was
Will
at
it be
Kendall.
on CNN?
they have a whole series of films they do.
It's at Kendall right now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But I've already seen it. I'd like to.
Other people to see it.
I'd like other
That's
people.
what I'm saying. You can see it at Kendall.
I think you're totally right about the counterintuitiveness of that narrative twist. I think that it might have been overstated a little bit by the principals in this movie. They have a vested interest in making it seem like, they were scoundrels, but lovable scoundrels, and righteous scoundrels back in the day, and then David Pecker took over and made everything worse. It's worth pointing out, for example, that the catch and kill that they did with Trump, they also did with Bill Cosby. There's a story in there where someone has a scoop
and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right. Yes. Okay, well, we're going to hold on to this story if you help us out with some exclusives. So that's not a new thing that David Pecker brought to the table. I got to say, the production was just fabulous. All the great B-roll from the 70s that they had, even the way that they introduced people by giving them these little press badges. I didn't think it was going to be fun to watch, and it was fantastic.
I agree.
So I would say that beyond the point that they were trying to make about what the Enquirer once was and the losing of the soul under this new thing, the other thing that we have to pay attention to is how many of those tactics have crept into now quote-unquote mainstream news, and that it and by the way, Carl Bernstein was consistent all the way through. We see him early on in archival footage saying this is bad, and then all the way up to now saying, I told you it was going to be really bad, which I think is important. So these things that are now part of the business that we don't think about so much, that came from this kind of thing. So I would say that. The second thing is, I just have to give a nod to the direction. What you're complimenting is the direction of the film, which, if people are film majors, they will appreciate just the setup of the interviews alone. The consistency of the ones on the shots in the, it's beautifully done. And the way that the music was choreographed. It's
I thought the
wonderful.
opening music was a little odd.
Oh, no, I thought it was perfect.
I knew you would like it.
Perfect.
One other super quick point. Once upon a time, the Enquirer was the only place you could go to get really bizarre conspiracy theories.
That's
Elvis
right.
is alive. Hillary had a baby with a space alien. Now they come from the President of the United States.
That's true.
All right. Well, was that a good enough commercial for them? We all loved it.
It's a good film.